Help me to stay competitive against the big multinational corporations by subscribing to this channel, hitting the notification bell, liking the video, and maybe leaving a comment in the comment sections below. Thank you very much and enjoy the video. Greetings Rethinkers, welcome to the Hoggcast. Okay, you may remember this footage from my last video. Now, I can tell you that those ghetto youths, the future of Britain, the doctors and engineers we were promised by the British Labour Party, I can tell you that they have finally been arrested by the police. They were first actually put under protection by the police. Yes, protection by the British police. Not arrested initially. I'm not entirely sure why, but we'll go over things in a moment. But they were put under initially police protection. But now they have been arrested. I should imagine it's because of the elderly lady in question who got coughed on and spat at and ended up with a black eye. I should imagine that she had put in a complaint with the police, and then naturally probably the police would deal with it. But because of our friend from Luton, who I'm afraid to say I have received multiple bans at the moment, I can't share my videos on social media, so I don't think this one will do particularly well. So if you're watching this, can you please share it far and wide? This one will be okay because it's not mentioning his name, but in my original video on this, I had mentioned his name and I had got banned. I've been banned from social media, hopefully temporarily. It does say only for 7 days, but for some strange reason it says I can't post a comment or anything like that or message for 30 days. So it might be a 30-day ban, but I tried to take every precaution I could. But you're not allowed to say it. You're not allowed to say his name. You're not allowed to mention anything good he does. And in fact, now that I've spoke about that, there is something I want to show you. And this highlights perfectly how the mainstream media and the likes of the BBC especially, they will willfully withhold certain key facts from you so you don't see the full picture. That way they can control the narrative, and what you're about to see sums that up perfectly. Okay, so as you can see, it is an article from the BBC that is only a few days old, a day after the incident in fact. So we've got 3 teenagers were arrested after an elderly couple were allegedly coughed at in the street. The couple were approached by 3 people in Hitchin, one of whom is said to have coughed in their faces. A passerby, intervened. They don't mention who it is, but a passerby intervened and there was a quote-unquote altercation. 3 males aged 16, 18 and 19 were questioned on suspicion of actual bodily harm and a fray and criminal damage. Her vehicle was also damaged in the incident, and the man who intervened. Okay. Now, why is this important? Because, you know, if the boot was on the other foot and they had the opportunity to make Luton man out to be the bad guy, if it was him who had behaved in that manner and 2 of his friends or 2 of people from his old organisation, believe me, you would not only know who they are, you would know what they are, you would know what trainers they were wearing, you would know everything about them down to their address, okay? Someone would do it. You would find out. But because it's the other way around and because he's came to the rescue, you see, in the mainstream media, the narrative must be Luton man bad. Just like in the United States, where you often find Orange man bad when it comes to Donald Trump, okay? It's the same thing with any patriot. Of course, Luton man and Orange man are 2 different people, of course, are 2 different types of patriots. I know that Luton man's a bit more rough around the edges. He's more salt of the earth, really, let's be honest. However, the fact remains is the mainstream media have an agenda that fits inside a box, okay? Now, the narrative cannot be allowed, from their point of view, to move outside of that box, okay? It has to stay here. So if the narrative is Luton Man bad, and a situation like this presents itself in the street where he has helped an old working class lady who is being attacked by the future doctors and engineers that the globalists promised us we would get. By the way, one of these people was actually a failed asylum seeker who's on bail for walking around the town centre robbing people with a knife. Okay, that's the type of futures and doctors we've got in Britain at the moment, right? Now, the narrative is future doctors and engineers good, Luton Man bad. And that's the two lines here that make the box. That's the narrative, and they don't like to stray from it for ideological reasons. We know the mainstream media are not they don't like to inform us, they like to misinform us. They like to be gatekeepers of information, you see. This is why they have reacted so hostilely, or in such a hostile manner, to those of us in the alt media, because they don't want to give that monopoly up. And they know they're in deep shit, because they know they've been lying to us for a long time. And the one good thing, or one of many good things, that the internet has gave us is the ability to drastically improve the level of knowledge of the average person. It is something akin to in the Renaissance era, when the printing press was invented and widely used. It meant that for the first time in history, certainly in Western history, the average hoi polloi like myself and yourself, we could learn to read and write. And with that followed, because obviously it was a very religious time, it followed the inevitable learning of the Bible and reading of the Bible. So for the first time, we didn't need a corrupt priest or bishop to tell us what was in the Bible. And as a result of that, when people first started flicking through the Bible and they realised that, hang on a minute, this isn't what the priest said, this isn't what the Bible's the bishop said, it's nothing of the sort. And that was when the people, the main body of the public, the general public, for the first time realised that the gatekeepers of knowledge had been lying to them. And something similar is happening with the internet and the alt media right now. Well, free thinkers, we're approaching the end of the video now, and I would just like to leave my final thoughts as I normally do. At the end of the day, you cannot have in your society people who mistreat the elderly in such a fashion, because if they're willing to mistreat the most vulnerable people in our society in such a way, you have to think about what their let alone their base intentions, but you have to think what they're capable of doing to you and me. Now, I know that young men have young men's bravado, and they sometimes do things that later in life they regret, but I've noticed that as time goes on, moving down the line and down the generations, people are becoming more and more nasty, more spiteful. They are having less respect for the elderly or the vulnerable. And personally, my own personal opinion is we have to cut back on the numbers of people from vastly different cultures who obviously don't like us or respect us, because you can't integrate with us if you don't respect us. And at the end of the day, I think that there has to be a curtailing of the numbers, certainly in this heightened period with the you-know-what virus doing its rounds. And of course, it is something to worry about for the future, because our own native British birth rates are way below replacement, and theirs is far above replacement, which means that if there is a prevailing culture where disrespect is shown to the non-believers, the disbelievers, this, that and the other. You know who I'm talking about, infidels like myself and yourself. If the prevailing culture is one to show utter disrespect to us, as their numbers increase and ours decrease, we're only likely to see more and more of this type of thing happening again and again and again. As for the mainstream media, you know the score by now. I've already explained it to you. They're the gatekeepers of information. Had it have been those three ghetto youths, the future doctors and engineers of Great Britain, we were told we couldn't do without. Had it have been them coming to the aid and Tommy and Luton Man and his friends doing that, then I can guarantee you that the quote-unquote other male would have been named. You would know who he is. They would tell you. It'd be all over the news. But they don't tell you because they don't want you to know that he's capable of good things. They want you to only think that he's capable of bad things. Thank you for watching this video. I'm currently banned from social media for spreading that video. I don't know how long for. If you could, by all means, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, like the video, comment below, and maybe share the video. I appreciate that's probably asking for a lot, but if you could do only just one of those things, that would help me out a lot, because it would help me to stay competitive with the big multinational corporations that YouTube has chose to prioritise. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Free thinkers, thank you and goodbye.